25 Secrets and 99 Nights in the Forest. In the new winter update, you can find a bunch of elves all around the forest. There's 3 sets of them to find, and you can easily locate them by simply walking around your explored areas. Eventually, you'll find them in their green and red uniforms, but they're stuck on ice. These large ponds are frozen over, meaning you'll actually slip if you don't have the right gear. This can be especially lethal at night with wolves and the deer chasing, so you'll want to spend your coins on a pair of ice skates from Santa's sleigh near your camp ASAP. Once you do, you'll now be able to walk over and rescue those elves. Hold to interact, picking them up off the ice, and they'll reward you with a free gift. You could get a giant snowball launcher, a ranged weapon with infinite ammo, and it's perfect for taking out enemies, but with a longer reload time you gotta keep in mind. Or there's a peppermint pelter with 8 rounds and infinite ammo. You just gotta keep your distance because these things have a long reload time. It's basically a sniper. There's also a chance you'll find the blow dart from your gift instead, giving you a small dart pipe to shoot infinite poison darts at your enemies. But this one's a little different. It's still got a pretty slow reload and only 3 shots at a time, but as a bonus, it'll actually poison your enemies, meaning you'll continue dealing damage over time. So you gotta hope you find your favorite. For me, that's the Trident. Unlike the rest, this isn't a ranged weapon, it's a lethal spear which you could constantly attack with. Now obviously it means you gotta get close up to fight them, but it can 2-shot any wolves and bunnies and kill cultists in just a few taps. So for no reloading mid-fight, it's gotta be the winner. Unless you get your hands on the ray gun, that is, because this is the most powerful one of all with the fastest fire rate, infinite ammo, and a faster reload. The best part, this one doesn't even use ammo, it's energy. You gotta watch that bar on the right because if it hits 0, you overheat, taking longer to reload. But if you stop right before it, you could actually recharge much faster, even letting you fire again. There's a bunch to find, so make sure you got those ice skates and save the elves because there's a chance even more will spawn on the frozen lakes each day at sunrise. And that's not the only perk of the ice skates either, because these make you walk 3 times faster than usual across the ice, sliding around at max speed. So I know what you're thinking, it is faster than the deer. Usually he's the only thing you can't outrun, but thanks to these ice rinks, you'll actually fly ahead of him, finally being able to escape him or at least dodge his attacks until morning. Now if you played before, you'll know there's usually traps in the forest, making you fall into a giant pit with spikes. They're pretty annoying, especially when you're running from wolves or the deer, but for winter, they have been secretly changed. Since the ground is covered in snow, they're now both in the ground and the trees too. So now when you walk up to a tree to harvest it, you might just be yoinked by a rope and pulled up into the trees unable to move. It doesn't damage you, but you're stuck for a few seconds, unable to grab your stuff or defend yourself. As you level up your camp, you probably come across the cultists who sometimes drop amulets. These are essential to upgrade and craft items, but if you're ever left with any spare, there's actually a secret ritual you could do. Take them to the cathedral found in the volcanic area and place them on these 4 plinths. The reward for your collection is a giant boss battle with the Cultist King. Defeat him successfully, and you'll get a bunch of rare items, including the Cultist Antler, which could be combined with other things like scorpion shells, and forge the Infernal Helmet. Obviously, that requires a bunch of work and a lot of enemies killed, but that's even easier when you know the secret strat to upgrading your revolver. The weapon is perfect for taking out enemies at range, but it could be so much faster. It turns out when you equip your gun, it actually cancels the time between shots, meaning you could repeatedly shoot while equipping and unequipping your weapon to fire over 2 times faster. What about making your cooking faster? Sure, you could just throw the raw food into the campfire to cook it, but if you collect a bunch of carrots in a cooking pot, you could be so much more efficient. Place a wooden wall right up against the rain shelter and the cooking pot directly next to the wall. Now, there's a small gap where you could dump all your collected food and it'll automatically fill the stove when it's empty, generating tons of carrot stew to eat whenever you need. If you're looking for fish instead of grown vegetables, find this fishing shack next to a pond somewhere in your world and you'll enter a mini game. With your fishing rod, you could catch fish by hitting it perfectly on the green line, but did you know you could also catch rare resources? Simply open the text chat while you're catching fish and type in "yay fishing," and the game will suddenly grant you 2 diamonds completely free. Seems like a crazy trick, so your next question is, why not just spam it? Sadly, it only works once, so remember to claim them if you're fishing. If you fully expand your map to level 5, you'll be able to make it go all the way to the edge, but there's actually a pretty easy way to go out of bounds. Simply craft 2 teleporters and place one at your base and another through the edge of the wall, charge it up, and when you teleport there, you'll actually be on the outside of the map. Not only can no enemies get you out here, but even the owl gets confused. Obviously, this is insanely OP to just camp out a bunch of nights, so the devs thought of this. If you stay out here long enough, the game actually detects it and spawns a wolf nearby, forcing you to fight him off and re-enter the map. As you get into day 30 onwards, it becomes pretty hard to keep the campfire lit with constant raids, rain, even the owl chasing you when you're trying to loot. So if you do eventually lose control of it, make sure you've crafted a compass. This thing's more useful than you might think, because not only does it point the direction north and south, but it also marks things like the kids you've rescued, so even if you lose your fire, you could always find your way back by following it. If you've been out on an expedition, make sure you enter any hospital you find on the way. These are not only good places to loot, but they're guaranteed to have heals inside, like bandages and med kits. They're crucial to get you and your team back up and revive when you die without using Robux, so the hospitals are your best bet for finding them, just don't pass them by. In most wooden cabins around the forest, you'll probably find things like tables and chairs and wonder why you could pick them up, especially if you can't even sit down. Well, just like wooden logs, they're actually meant to go in the fire. Throw a single chair in and it'll top you up with campfire fuel worth 5 logs. Or if you're crafting some things, throw it in the grinder and it'll spit out more planks too, so they're definitely worth taking with you. When you're out and about in the world and you see these floating yellow bubbles, don't worry, unlike everything out here, they're not hostile. These are actually fireflies, and while they might look useless, they're very helpful. When you're brave enough to explore at night, these little guys help provide some extra lighting and even let you recharge your flashlight batteries simply by running through them. Speaking of fuel, your campfire is constantly in need of more wood, which is why planting your saplings is crucial. Not only do you need to replant them to keep the source of wood, but you also need to be careful with the location. Don't just replant them at the same spot, instead bring them all back to your campfire and place them as close as the game will let you, all in one big pile. Now, not only do you not have to leave safety for more wood, but you could also chop down most of them in the same hit since they're so close together. And if cultists attacking your camp is still your main problem, try collecting the materials to craft a lightning rod. Sounds weird, I know, but this thing is actually so tall that you could climb it, and once you're at the top, they just can't attack you. It's the perfect place to hide and take them out with your ranged weapons. And speaking of weapons, one of them has a second use you've just never realized. You've probably run into the hidden spike traps around the forest, and yes, they hurt, but this could also be completely reversed and used against enemies. If you ever chased by wolves or other creatures, simply lure them straight into the trap and they'll take damage every time they fall in. Sometimes they even get stuck, killing them for you. Now, possibly the strangest tip you would never expect is your graphics. And it's not to turn them up either. At night, with your graphics set normally, it becomes very dark and hard to see through the fog, especially with no lights. But if you simply turn your settings down, you'll be able to see the outline of everything in front of you, even with no flashlight. Now, your campfire may be the safest place for you, but it still won't stop cultists from entering. So instead, try making a wall with the storage units. The enemies in the game can't figure out how to get to you when you're behind them, so a circle of these things is the perfect barricade. Once you have enough resources, your main priority is to switch from wood fuel to oil. You could craft an oil drill and place it directly into the campfire so that when it spits them out, they just go right into the fire automatically, meaning you never have to worry about it going out on its own, but always a good idea to keep a stack of wood spare just in case. Now you might have figured this one out, but for those who haven't, in the early days of the game, carrying items is super important, especially with only 5 slots in your sack. But once that's full, don't leave everything else on the ground. You can take one more item by picking it up and dragging it all the way back to camp. Something I bet you didn't know is that the deer is based on a real story. Right as you load into the game, you'll see the pop-up, but most people ignore it. It turns out most of the enemies in the game are based on cryptid stories, like the owl from the Owl Man of Monon and the deer from the famous Wendigo. That is 25 secrets in 99 Nights in the Forest. Hope you all enjoyed. It's been Tommy, and keep it here on Top 5 Gaming Blocks.